In the cold winter of 2016, near the broken city of Aleppo in Syria, the sky was gray and heavy with smoke. Bombs had fallen for days. Buildings that once stood tall were now piles of stone and twisted metal. Streets were empty except for the wind blowing dust and torn pieces of cloth. No birds sang. No children played. Only silence and sometimes the far-off sound of gunfire. In the middle of this ruined place, a small group of people moved quietly through the rubble. They wore plain clothes, not uniforms, and carried heavy backpacks. They were not soldiers. They were volunteers from a small medical aid group called Horizon Hope. Their leader was Dr. Elena Marquez, a woman in her late 30s with tired eyes but steady hands. She had worked in many war zones before, Darfur, Yemen, the Philippines, but nothing had prepared her for Aleppo. Elena and her team had come to deliver medicine, clean water, and bandages to a clinic that barely existed anymore. They knew it was dangerous. The area was under constant attack. But people were dying, and someone had to try. As they walked past what used to be a school, now just a shell of broken walls, one of the team members, a young Kenyan nurse named Amina, stopped. She held up her hand. "Listen," she whispered. At first there was nothing. Then a faint sound, a tapping, like someone knocking on wood. Very soft, very slow. The team froze. They looked at each other. In a place like this, any sound could mean danger. It could be a trap. Or it could be something else, Elena nodded. "Let's check." They followed the sound to a pile of broken concrete, bricks, and twisted rebar. The tapping came from underneath. Elena knelt down and called out in Arabic, "Is someone there?" "We're here to help," a weak voice answered. It was a boy's voice. "Help, please!" The team worked fast. They pulled away chunks of wall, careful not to cause another collapse. Their hands bled from sharp edges, but they didn't stop. After nearly an hour, they uncovered a small space, a gap under a fallen ceiling. Inside, curled up in the dark, was a boy. He couldn't have been more than 14. His face was covered in dust, his clothes torn, and one leg was bent at a strange angle, but his eyes were open, alive. "It's okay," Elena said gently, switching to simple Arabic. "We're going to get you out." The boy blinked. "My family," he whispered. Elena didn't answer right away. She had seen the house or what was left of it. There were no signs of other survivors. But she didn't say that. Not yet. With great care, they lifted the boy out. Amina wrapped his leg in a splint made from a broken plank and strips of cloth. Another team member, Karim, a Lebanese pharmacist, gave him water mixed with sugar and salt to fight shock. The boy's name was Amir. He told them, in broken sentences, that his parents and little sister had been in the house when the bomb hit. He had been in the back room reading. The roof fell, but a beam held up just enough space for him to breathe. For 2 days he had stayed there, calling out, hoping someone would hear. No one had, until now. The team knew they couldn't stay. The sun was going down, and night in Aleppo was more dangerous than day. Snipers watched from rooftops. Militias moved through the streets. They had to get Amir to safety. They made a stretcher from blankets and poles and carried him through the ruins. Every step was risky. Once a shot rang out nearby and they dropped to the ground, hearts pounding. But no one was hit. They kept going. Hours later, they reached the edge of the city where a waiting van hid behind a burned-out bus. The driver, a local man named Faisal, had risked his life to wait for them. He took one look at Amir and nodded. "Hurry," he said. The drive to the Turkish border was rough and silent. Amir drifted in and out of sleep. Elena held his hand the whole time. When they finally crossed into Turkey, it felt like entering another world. Lights, cars, people walking without fear. At a field hospital near the border, doctors took Amir in right away. His leg was badly broken, but not beyond saving. He would need surgery, rest, and time, but he would live. Over the next few days, as Amir slowly woke up in a real bed with clean sheets, Elena visited him often. She brought him fruit, which he ate like it was a miracle. He asked about his family again. This time, Elena told him the truth as gently as she could. Amir cried quietly, his face turned to the wall. Then he wiped his eyes and said, "Thank you." One evening, as the sun set outside his window, Amir spoke again. "There are others," he said suddenly. Elena looked up from her notes. "Others?" "In my neighborhood," Amir said. Before the last bombing, people went into the basement shelters. My uncle said they sealed the doors so the dust wouldn't get in. Maybe some are still there. Elena felt a chill. She had assumed the whole area was empty. But what if it wasn't? Are you sure? She asked. Amir nodded. I heard voices. The day before the bomb hit. From the old bakery basement. And Mrs. Noor's house, she had a cellar. She took in children after their school was hit. Elena didn't say anything right away. She knew what he was asking. But going back was almost impossible. The fighting had gotten worse. Their group had no official protection, and their supplies were nearly gone. Still, she couldn't forget the look in Amir's eyes, not just grief but hope. A tiny, stubborn hope that others might still be alive. The team had to leave the next morning. Their mission was over. They had delivered the medicine, saved one life, and escaped with their own. That was more than many could say. As they packed their gear, Amina came to Elena. He really believes there are more people there, she said. I know, Elena replied. What if he's right? Elena looked toward the hospital window. In the distance, beyond the hills, smoke still rose from Aleppo. She thought of the tapping sound in the dark. One life saved, but what about the others no one heard? She didn't answer Amina, not yet. But as the van drove away from the border camp, Elena kept seeing Amir's face, and his words echoed in her mind like a promise or a challenge. They rescued one human. So we came back for all of them. She didn't know it then, but those words would soon become true. But for now, all she could do was carry the weight of that single boy's hope, and wonder if it was enough to make her turn around. In Istanbul, Turkey, winter turned to spring, but the cold stayed in Amir's bones. He lived in a small room at a refugee support center run by a kind Turkish couple. His leg was healing, but walking still hurt. Doctors said he would walk normally again, but it would take time. Time was something Amir had too much of and not enough of. Too much because every day felt long and empty. Not enough because he kept thinking of the people he left behind. Dr. Elena Marquez visited him every few days. She brought books, fruit, and sometimes just sat with him in silence. She could see the sadness in his eyes, deeper than pain. One afternoon, as rain tapped on the window, Amir looked at her and said, Do you think anyone is still alive in my street? Elena didn't know what to say. She had checked news reports, called contacts in Syria, even looked at satellite images when she could. But the area around Amir's neighborhood was now called a no-go zone. No aid groups went there. No reporters, nothing. I don't know, she said honestly. But I haven't stopped thinking about it. Amir nodded slowly. I hear them in my dreams, he whispered. Calling for help. Back at her small apartment in Istanbul, Elena couldn't sleep. She replayed Amir's words over and over. She had spent years helping people in disasters, but this felt different. Usually she followed orders, worked within systems, waited for approval. But this time it wasn't about rules. It was about one boy who survived and the others who might still be waiting in the dark. She called a meeting with her team. They met in a quiet cafe near the Bosphorus River. Amina, the Kenyan nurse, came first. Then Karim, the Lebanese pharmacist, and Faisal, the Syrian driver who had helped them escape Aleppo. They sat around a small table sipping tea, their faces tired but alert. I've been thinking, Elena began. What if Amir is right? What if there are people still alive in those basements? Amina leaned forward. I've been thinking the same thing. But how can we go back? The roads are worse now. There are more checkpoints. And we have no money for another trip, Karim nodded. Our group has no official support. If we get caught, no one will help us. Faisal stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, I know people. Not soldiers. Just regular folks who move between towns. They know secret paths. But it's dangerous. And expensive. Elena took a deep breath. We don't need a big mission. Just a small team. Quiet, fast. We go in, check the shelters, bring out anyone alive. Then we leave. But who will pay for fuel? Medicine, food? Amina asked. I'll find a way, Elena said. That night she sat at her laptop and wrote a message. She posted it on social media, on aid worker forums, even on a crowdfunding site. She didn't ask for much, just enough for one more trip. She told Amir's story. She shared a photo of him in the hospital, holding a cup of tea, looking both young and old at the same time. She wrote, We saved one life. But what if there are more? Help us go back. At first nothing happened. Then a few small donations came in. $10 from a teacher in Canada, 50 from a retired nurse in Germany. A message from a student in Kenya. My sister is a nurse like Amina, please help them. Within a week they had enough for fuel, basic medical supplies, and food for a short mission. It wasn't much, but it was something. Then, something unexpected happened. A man in England saw the post. His name was James Holloway. He was 62 years old with white hair and a quiet voice. He had been a firefighter for 40 years. 10 years ago, his only son had died in a factory fire because no one came in time to save him. James had never fully recovered from that loss. He spent his days now fixing old radios and helping at a local shelter. When he read about Amir, trapped, alone, saved by strangers, it felt like a message. He emailed Elena. I want to help, he wrote. I'm not young, but I know how to carry people. I know how to stay calm in dangerous places. Let me come. Elena was surprised. She didn't know him, but something in his words felt true. She called him. They talked for an hour. James didn't speak much about his son, but Elena could hear the pain in his voice and the hope. Saving one life doesn't end the pain, he said. But maybe saving more can begin to heal it. She agreed to let him join. Meanwhile, Amir started helping too. He couldn't walk far, but he could talk. He drew maps from memory, where the basements were, which doors were strong, which streets were blocked. He remembered names, Mrs. Noor, who baked bread for the whole street, Mr. Fidel, the old tailor, little Layla, who was only 6 and loved drawing cats. These are the people, Amir said, pointing to his rough sketch. If they're alive, they'll be here. The team studied the map. They planned a route that avoided main roads. Faisal said he could get them a small truck that looked like a vegetable seller's van. They would dress like locals, speak only Arabic or Turkish, and carry no phones that could be tracked. But there was one big problem. They had no permission to enter Syria. The Turkish government had closed the border to unofficial groups. If they were caught, they could be arrested or worse. We'll have to cross at night, Faisal said. There's a spot near the olive groves. Smugglers use it. It's risky but possible. Elena knew the danger. She thought about her parents back in Spain. She thought about her team. But then she thought of Amir's tapping in the dark, and the silence that might still be hiding other taps, other voices. One evening, she visited Amir again. She told him they were going back. His eyes widened. Really? Yes, she said. But you can't come. It's too dangerous. Amir looked down at his leg. Then he looked up. Then I'll wait here, and I'll pray. The next week, the team prepared quietly. They packed bandages, water purifiers, painkillers, and high-energy biscuits. James arrived from London with a heavy backpack and strong boots. He shook hands with everyone, his grip firm. He didn't say much, but his presence felt solid, like a wall. The night before they left, they met in Faisal's garage. The van was ready. The sky was clear. Stars shone bright. Are we sure about this? Karim asked softly. Elena looked at each of them. Amina, strong and kind. Karim, careful and smart. Faisal, brave and loyal. James, quiet but full of purpose. We're not sure, she said. But we know it's the right thing. No one argued. They loaded the van in silence. Amir wasn't there to see them off. He was asleep, dreaming maybe of his street before the bombs. But in his room on the table, he had placed a small stone he'd kept from Aleppo. A reminder, a promise. As the van drove toward the border under cover of darkness, Elena looked out the window. The city lights faded behind them. Ahead was only black road and unknown danger, but also maybe life. They had saved one human. Now they were going back for all of them. The night was black and quiet as the van rolled past the last Turkish checkpoint. No lights, no talking. Only the soft hum of the engine and the sound of tires on dirt. Inside, 5 people sat close together. Elena, Amina, Karim, James, and Faisal. They wore old clothes, scarves around their necks, and caps pulled low. They looked like farmers or traders, not rescuers. Faisal drove slowly, eyes sharp on the road. He knew this path. He had taken it before, carrying medicine, messages, sometimes people running for their lives. But never like this. Never with a full team going back into the heart of danger on purpose. After 2 hours, they stopped near a line of olive trees. Ahead was the border. No fence, just open land. But guards patrolled sometimes. They waited until the moon hid behind clouds, then walked the rest of the way on foot, leaving the van hidden in the trees. It took them all night to reach the edge of Aleppo. By dawn, they were inside the ruined city again. The smell hit them first, dust, smoke, and something sour like old garbage and wet stone. Buildings stood like broken teeth against the sky. Windows were empty holes. Cars sat rusted and burned in the streets. They moved in silence, sticking to shadows, watching for movement. James carried the heaviest pack: water, bandages, rope. Amina held a small medical kit close to her chest. Kareem had a radio just in case. Elena led the way, following Amir's map in her mind. Their first stop was the old bakery. Amir said the basement there was deep and strong. They found it behind a pile of bricks. The door was half buried, but not locked. James and Faisal pulled it open with a loud creak that made everyone freeze. They listened, nothing. Then a sound, a cough. Faint but real. Elena called softly. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Silence. Then a woman's voice, weak and scared. "Who are you?" "We're here to help," Elena said. "We're not soldiers." Slowly, a face appeared in the dark. An old woman, thin as a stick, wrapped in a dirty blanket. Behind her, more shapes moved, children, men, women. They blinked in the light like people waking from a long sleep. There were 12 of them. They had been in the basement for weeks. They had water from a pipe that still dripped. Bread had run out days ago. One boy had a fever. A woman's arm was swollen from a cut. Amina got to work right away. She gave the boy medicine, cleaned the woman's wound, and handed out biscuits. Kareem passed around water bottles. James helped the weakest stand. "We thought no one would come," the old woman whispered. "We heard bombs every day. We thought the world forgot us." "We didn't forget," Elena said. They stayed for a few hours, long enough to treat the sick and give hope. But they couldn't stay long. The area was not safe. They told the group to be ready. They would come back soon to take them out. Next, they went to Mrs. Noor's house. The street was worse here, more rubble, more danger. As they turned a corner, a shot rang out. Not close, but too close. They dropped behind a broken wall. "Sniper," Faisal whispered. "Up there." He pointed to a roof 2 blocks away. They waited, hearts pounding. After 10 minutes, the street was quiet again. They moved faster now, low to the ground. Mrs. Noor's cellar was under what used to be a garden. The door was hidden under a pile of wood. James and Faisal cleared it carefully. Inside, they found 11 more people, mostly women and children. Mrs. Noor herself was there, holding little Layla, the 6-year-old who loved drawing cats. Layla stared at them with big eyes but didn't cry. "We heard voices days ago," Mrs. Noor said. "We thought it was ghosts." "No ghosts," James said gently. "Just people who care." Again, Amina treated the sick. One child had a bad cough. Another had a rash from dirty water. Kareem gave them clean tablets to purify water. Elena wrote down names, counted heads, made a new plan in her mind. Now they had 23 people to save. But as they prepared to leave Mrs. Noor's cellar, a new sound came, not a bomb, not a gunshot. Voices, angry voices. Men shouting. Faisal peeked out. "Militia," he said quickly. 3 of them. "Coming this way." The team froze. They had no weapons. No way to fight, only their wits. "Hide," Elena whispered. They pulled the cellar door shut and covered it with the wood again. Everyone inside stayed silent. Even the children held their breath. The footsteps came closer. Boots on stone, then voices right above them. "Did you see anyone?" One man asked. "No," another said. "But I smell something." "Like medicine." Elena's heart jumped. They had used antiseptic. The smell might give them away. The men kicked at the rubble. One lifted a piece of wood. James tightened his grip on a metal pipe he'd picked up just in case. Then a radio crackled on one of the men's belts. A voice shouted orders. "Move out!" "New orders! East side!" The men cursed, then walked away. Everyone inside let out a slow breath, but the danger wasn't over. The militia knew someone was in the area. They would be back. "We have to move tonight," Elena said when they were safe again. "All of them?" "We can't wait." "But how?" Kareem asked. 23 people? Some can barely walk. "We carry them," James said simply. They made a plan. Faisal would go ahead to check the route. James and Kareem would help the weak walk or carry them. Amina would stay with the children. Elena would lead the group, but they needed more help. They needed someone on the inside who knew the streets better than they did. That's when Elena made a decision. She took out a small satellite phone, one they'd saved for emergencies, and called Amir in Istanbul. "Amir," she said when he answered, voice shaking with surprise. "We found them. 23 people. But we need you." Amir didn't ask why. He just said, "I'm coming." He didn't tell the Turkish staff. He just packed a small bag, left a note, and took a bus to the border town. From there, with help from a friend of Faisal's, he crossed back into Syria, on crutches with a healing leg but with fire in his heart. When he met the team near the bakery, they were shocked. "You shouldn't be here," Elena said. "I'm the only one who knows all the safe paths," Amir said, "and they know me. They'll trust me." He was right. When the survivors saw Amir, alive, walking, leading strangers, they cried. They hugged him. They believed they could be saved. That night, under a moonless sky, the rescue began. The group moved in small lines 10 minutes apart, so they wouldn't look like a big target. James carried a small boy on his back. Amina held Layla's hand. Mrs. Noor walked slowly but proudly. The old woman from the bakery leaned on Amir's shoulder. They passed through alleys, over broken walls, under fallen wires. Every sound made them stop. Every shadow made them hold their breath. Halfway to the edge of the city, they heard engines, trucks coming fast. "Get down!" Faisal hissed. They all dropped behind a collapsed wall. Headlights swept the street. Soldiers shouted. But the trucks rolled past, heading toward the city center. They kept going. By morning, they reached the olive grove where the van was hidden. Everyone was tired, hungry, scared, but alive. Faisal started the engine. One by one, they climbed in. The van was full, too full, but no one complained. Children sat on laps. Adults stood in the back holding on tight. As they drove toward the border, the sun rose behind them, painting the ruins in gold. No one spoke. But in the silence, there was something new, hope. They had gone back for the others. And they had found them, but the journey wasn't over yet. The border was still ahead, and the world outside didn't always welcome those who escaped the dark. Still, for now, they were together, and they were moving toward light. The van moved slowly through the dusty hills, its engine groaning under the weight of so many people. Inside, 23 survivors sat close together, some sleeping, some staring out the windows with wide eyes, some holding hands like they were afraid the world might vanish again. In the front, Faisal kept his eyes on the road, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Every bump made the van rattle, but no one complained. After weeks in darkness, even this rough ride felt like freedom, but freedom was not guaranteed yet. The Turkish border was still miles away, and the road was watched. Checkpoints could appear without warning. Soldiers might stop them. Questions would be asked. Papers would be demanded, and they had none. Elena sat in the passenger seat, her mind racing. She kept glancing back at the group, Mrs. Noor holding little Layla, the old woman from the bakery, humming a soft song. Amir resting his head against the window, his crutches tucked beside him. They had made it this far. She couldn't let them down now. Then, as if the sky heard her fear, rain began to fall. Light at first, then heavier. The dirt road turned to mud. The van slipped once, and Faisal cursed under his breath. "Not good," he said. "If the road gets worse, we'll get stuck." But the rain also helped. It washed away tire tracks. It hid their movements. And it kept patrols inside. They drove for hours. By midday, they were close, only 10 kilometers from the border crossing near Reyhanlı. That's when a new problem came. A young man named Tarek, one of the survivors from Mrs. Noor's cellar, started coughing badly. His face turned red, then pale. Amina checked him quickly. "His lungs," she whispered to Elena. "He's been breathing dust and mold for weeks. He needs oxygen now," but they had no oxygen, only basic medicine. Elena looked at James. "We have to get him to a hospital fast." James nodded. "Then we don't stop. We go straight to the border." But the border wasn't open to just anyone, especially not a van full of undocumented Syrians. That's when Layla stepped forward. She was a quiet woman in her 30s, a former schoolteacher from Aleppo. She had stayed silent most of the trip, but now she spoke with clear, strong words. "I have a phone," she said. "A small one hidden in my shoe. I kept it charged with a solar patch." Elena was surprised. "You can use it?" "Yes," Layla said. "I know a journalist in Gaziantep. Her name is Rana. She helped my students before the school was bombed. If anyone can help us now, it's her." With shaking hands, Layla turned on the phone. It had 1 bar of signal. She typed a short message. 23 civilians rescued from Aleppo. Sick child. At border soon. Need help. She hit send and prayed. Minutes later, The phone buzzed. A reply, "Stay on road. I'm calling contacts. Don't stop." Hope flickered in the van, but hope wasn't enough to cross a border. As they neared the official crossing, they saw soldiers, trucks, tall fences, flags, people in line with papers being checked one by one. Their van would never pass. Faisal pulled off the road behind a hill. "We can't go through there," he said. "We need the quiet crossing, the one near the river." "But that's 3 kilometers on foot," Karim said. "Tarek can't walk." "We carry him," James said again like he always did. So they got out of the van. Faisal hid it under branches and old tarps. Then the group began to walk slowly, carefully, through fields and ditches, staying low. James carried Tarek on his back. Amina held Layla's hand. Amir walked with the old woman, his crutches sinking in the mud but his steps firm. Elena led the way, watching for guards. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold. Children shivered. Still, no one cried. They had come too far to give up now. Halfway to the river, they heard voices. Not soldiers, other people. A small group of families walking the same path. They saw the rescuers and the survivors and stopped. "Are you going to Turkey?" a man asked. "Yes," Elena said. "We heard that some people were saved from Aleppo," the man said, eyes wide. "Is it true?" Amir stepped forward. "Yes, we were in the basements. These people came for us." The families looked at each other. Then the man said, "We've been hiding in a village for weeks, but it's not safe anymore. Can we come with you?" Elena's heart pounded. She didn't have supplies for more people, but how could she say no? She looked at James. He gave a small nod. "Okay," she said. "Stay close. Be quiet." More people joined them, first 5, then 10, then 20. Word spread fast among those hiding in the hills. "The foreigners are here." They came back. Soon the group grew to 40, then 50, then 61 souls walking together through the mud and fear. They were no longer just a rescue team. They were a moving village of hope. At the river, the crossing point was narrow and shallow, but the water was fast. Faisal went first, testing the stones. Then James carried Tarek across. One by one, they followed. Children on shoulders, elders held by 2 strong arms, mothers clutching babies tight. On the other side, Turkish soil, they collapsed in a field. Wet, tired, but safe, or so they thought. Minutes later, headlights appeared. A Turkish border patrol truck rolled up. Soldiers jumped out, rifles ready. "Stop! Who are you?" One shouted in Turkish. Elena stepped forward, hands up. "We're medical volunteers. These people are sick. One is dying. Please let us through." The soldiers looked at the group. So many children, so many tired faces. They radioed their commander. While they waited, Layla's phone buzzed again. She read the message and gasped. Rana posted the story. It's everywhere. News sites. Social media. Even the UN is asking about you. Sure enough, the soldiers' radios crackled with new orders. The commander's voice sounded different now, softer. "Let them pass," he said. "Send them to the camp near Yaylada. Doctors are waiting." The soldiers stepped aside, no papers, no questions. Just mercy. As the group walked the last stretch to the refugee camp, people from nearby tents came out to see. They brought blankets, hot tea, dry clothes. A doctor ran toward them with a stretcher for Tarek. Inside the camp, warm lights glowed. Tents stood in neat rows. There was food, water, medicine. For the first time in months, the survivors felt safe. Over the next few days, more help came. Doctors treated wounds. Nurses gave vaccines. Aid workers registered names. Children played in a small yard, laughing like they used to. Amir sat with Layla one afternoon, drawing cats in the dirt with a stick. She smiled for the first time since they'd found her. Elena watched them from a distance. She was exhausted, but her heart was full. Then she saw something that made her stop. A group of volunteers from another country arrived. Germans, Canadians, even more Syrians. They had heard the story. They rescued one human. So we came back for all of them. And they wanted to help too. The small rescue had become a movement. James stood beside Elena. "We didn't just save lives," he said quietly. "We reminded people that kindness still works." Elena nodded. "And it's not over." Because even as they rested, new messages came in from other ruined towns, other hidden basements. People were still out there, waiting, hoping. But now they knew someone might hear them and someone might come back. The refugee camp near Yaylada, Turkey, was never meant to be a home. It was a place of waiting, of tents, shared bathrooms, and meals handed out at set times. But for the 61 people who crossed the river that rainy night, it felt like a miracle. Clean water ran from taps. Doctors checked on them every day. Children went to a small school under a blue tarp. And for the first time in a long time, they could sleep without fear. Amir's leg grew stronger. He walked without crutches now, though he still favored his right side. He didn't sit idle. Every morning he helped new arrivals find their tents. He translated for doctors who didn't speak Arabic. He played games with the younger kids, teaching them songs from Aleppo. When a new group of volunteers arrived from Canada, he taught them simple Arabic words: thank you, water, safe. They called him the Bridge. Dr. Elena Marquez stayed at the camp longer than she planned. She had thought she would leave after a week, return to her life, rest. But every time she packed her bag, someone needed her. A child with a fever, a woman with a broken spirit, an old man who just wanted to talk about his garden back home. So she stayed. And slowly, the small medical tent she ran became the heart of the camp. James didn't go back to England. He said he wasn't ready. Instead, he helped build stronger shelters, fixed broken stoves, and carried supplies in the heat. The children loved him. They called him Baba James, Father James, even though he had no children of his own. At night, he sat by the fire and told stories, not about war, but about forests, rivers, and quiet mornings in his village. He never spoke of his son, but sometimes when a child hugged him, his eyes grew wet. Amina and Karim returned to their homes for a short time, but they came back. Amina started a women's health program. Karim set up a small pharmacy with donated medicine. Faisal, the brave driver, began organizing safe transport for families moving to other camps or cities. He knew the roads like the lines on his hands. News of their rescue spread far. A short video filmed on a phone by Layla, the schoolteacher, showed Amir helping Layla cross the river, James carrying Tarek, Elena holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. Someone posted it online with the words, "They rescued one human, so we came back for all of them." The video was shared millions of times. Donations poured in: money, clothes, medicine, books. Other aid groups came to learn from them. Some even copied their model: small teams, local knowledge, fast action. One day a letter arrived for Elena. It was from the United Nations. They invited her, James, Amir, and the whole team to speak at a global summit in Geneva about civilian protection in war zones. At first, Elena said no. "We're not heroes," she told Amir. "We just did what anyone would do." "But not everyone did it," Amir replied. "That's why they want to hear us." In the end, they agreed to go. The trip to Geneva was strange for them. Clean streets, quiet buildings, people in suits. No rubble, no fear. Amir had never been on a plane before. He stared out the window the whole time, watching clouds like they were dreams. At the summit, they didn't wear fancy clothes. Amir wore a simple shirt and jeans. James kept his old boots. Elena spoke first. She told the story simply, how they saved one boy, heard his words, and went back. She didn't ask for praise. She asked for change. "War doesn't just destroy buildings," she said. "It makes people feel forgotten. But no one should be left behind just because the world looks away." Then James stood up. His voice was quiet but strong. "I lost my son because no one came in time. I can't bring him back, but I can make sure others are not left alone in the dark. That's all." When it was Amir's turn, the room fell silent. He was just a teenager, thin and soft-spoken, but his eyes held years of pain and hope. "I was under the rubble," he said. "I thought I would die alone. But they came. And because they came for me, they found others. That's the truth. One life matters. One voice can be heard. And if we listen, we can save more." After the speech, people lined up to thank them. Diplomats, doctors, students. A young girl gave Amir a drawing, a boy being pulled from ruins by many hands. On the back, she wrote, "You gave us hope." Back in Turkey, life at the camp went on. New families arrived every week. Some came from Syria, others from Yemen, Sudan, Myanmar. The world was still broken in many places. But in this small corner, kindness grew like a garden. Amir started a project called the Listening Circle. Every evening, survivors sat together and shared stories, not just of pain, but of home, of dreams, of small joys. Amina joined them. So did James. Even Elena came when she could. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Layla ran up to Amir holding a piece of paper. "Look," she said. It was a drawing of a cat, fat, smiling, with big green eyes. "This is for you," she said. Amir smiled. "It's perfect." Later, he pinned it to the wall of the community tent next to photos of the rescue, maps of Aleppo, and a list of names, those they saved and those they remembered. Years passed. The camp changed. Some families moved to new homes in Europe, Canada, Germany. Others stayed in Turkey, building new lives. Amir went to university in Istanbul, studying to become a doctor. James returned to England but came back every summer to volunteer. Elena started a small organization that trained local people in war zones to give first aid and find survivors, so help could come faster from within. But they never forgot that winter in Aleppo, that tapping in the dark, that one boy who lived, and they never stopped believing that saving one life could lead to saving many more, because it did, and it still does. Today, in crisis zones around the world, small teams move quietly through danger, not with armies, but with backpacks, courage, and the simple idea that every human matters. They carry the spirit of that first rescue, and when someone asks why they risk so much, they often say the same words. They rescued one human. So we came back for all of them. It's not just a story, it's a promise. And as long as there are people willing to listen in the dark, that promise will keep coming true.